Hello, my name is Alysia Asp. I am from Creativity Consulting and Solwell Center. Nice to meet you and be a guest today. I would say it's volatile. I would say that from ever-changing rules and regulations, it's challenging. You have to be extremely agile in order to compete in this market. And you have to really understand the Chinese market if that's who you're going for. I would also say that the restrictions and all the things that keep happening keep throwing a lot of obstacles at people. And again, this is where the agility comes in, because if you have things that are closing or you have to move to online, you have to be ready. And the regulations change, I would say, almost every 6 months about certain things. So you have to be really paying attention. You have to do that. But on the other hand, it is super supportive. There are more entrepreneurs here. It's such a land of opportunity. For female entrepreneurs in specific, this is an amazing place. I have never seen such support for female entrepreneurship in any of the places I've been to. There's so many groups that are here. I'm involved in most of them. And you just couldn't ask for a better network to be able to start a business with. And I will say that with everything I've been through, if it wasn't for this network of expats and also local Chinese business women and professional women, I wouldn't have been able to succeed as much as I have so far. So on one hand, very, very difficult. On the other hand, you can get a lot of support. So it balances out on some level. Wow, we could talk for hours on the challenges. I think at some point I'm probably going to write a book on this, because the amount of challenges that you go through on any entrepreneurial journey cannot be underestimated. I would say we'll start with one of the first things that you talked about, finding the location. Finding the location in Shanghai is not very easy, right? Because you have all of these different neighborhoods. So when you're trying to find a place here, you have to take into account, where is your target market audience? Where are the people going to be willing to come to? So in our journey to try to find a space, we wanted to make sure that we were within 5 minutes, if possible, to a metro station. We wanted to make sure that we were central in the city. We wanted to make sure that the space had a feeling that it was open, but also cozy. Because what I wanted was an oasis in the city. This whole theme of this place was more of a beach type of feel. So the biggest hurdle there was finding something that was on the market and was a decent price. There, we got extremely lucky, because the landlady that we had, it speaks English, and she meditates and loves yoga. And she had originally gotten this place to make it into a wellness place. So she gave us money off of the rent. She's super supportive, very nice, still a friend of mine. So we got lucky on that. And the rent is a lot lower than we could be paying. Also, my business partner's office is just 2 buildings over. So we had access to that office while we were doing the construction. We were able to go back and forth, use those facilities. So we're very lucky with that. So when you're finding a location, I think the key is make sure that it's near a metro or near some kind of really good transportation. We've got the bus here, and then we have that. But the problem with the location still is that we're in a neighborhood. Now, when you have things like COVID, if it's not a commercial space, you're the last ones to open up. So because this is more of a co-working type space and it's zoned kind of differently, not full on commercial, then there's challenges. So if I were to go back and do things again, I would definitely make sure that I'm in a space that is zoned commercial, that I know would be opened up sooner with these kind of regulations. And that's something I would tell all your entrepreneurs to be careful with. Also, make sure that you know your neighborhood and your neighbors, and either give them something really good when you come in, but make sure that from the beginning you're doing things that show that you're a part of that neighborhood, if you're not in a fully commercial area, right? Because here the neighborhood really makes a big difference. The team, we had to start with pretty much volunteers because we were starting very strapped. It was just my business partner and I. So we started with a group of volunteers who were going to come in and work. And what they did is they had ability to come in here and teach classes once we opened. So for the first part, I didn't even have any employees to start. Then we had one person who was hired to help a little bit overseeing with the translation for the renovations because I did the architecture work and the purchasing. So we need to have somebody who spoke Chinese because my Chinese is, buhao. So we did that. Then we went on and got a part-time person who helped us with marketing and to get ready for the starting opening up. And then for a while, we just had a couple of hours a week where we paid somebody who helped us with our WeChat articles. Whew, that's a good question. I was always told to avoid partnerships like the plague, to be honest with you, especially with friends. But then I went to a talk by one of the head co-founders of Bao Pals, which is an English, it's English Taobao. It's a company that helps people who are foreign in English to access Taobao. Yes, and he actually started the business with his friends. And he said that it was great because there was a level of trust and you could have fun and all this stuff, right? And so I listened to that and I said, okay, I'll have my business partner, it'll be a best friend. However, I think that it might be easier for men to do this, I would say, because men have this way of they disagree and they can fight and then they can just be best friends like 5 minutes later. Whereas when women have disagreements and things like that, they will usually not be friends again ever. So I would say that there's a lot of tension that happens. And so if you're going to partner with a friend, make sure that you have all of the agreements crystal clear before you start out. Make sure that you are very clear on the vision together. Make sure that you're very clear on the roles ahead of time, and make sure there's contracts in place that cover all of this, because the gray area with that has made things difficult here for sure. And so I would definitely avoid that. The nice thing about a partnership is that you have more than one mind working on things. You have more than one people's resources. You have this combined intelligence and brain that can figure out things. And I purposely chose my business partner because she fills in gaps that I know I'm not good at. I have weaknesses just like everybody else. And I wanted to work with her because I knew that her strengths were my weaknesses and my strengths were her weaknesses. However, in the end, we struggled a lot because she was so busy with her other business that she couldn't really designate a lot of time here. And I had to focus more on making money to be able to sustain myself. So again, that's what you run into with partnerships, is that you have to understand that there's different moving parts. You also have to know who's in charge of what decisions. You have to have very, very clear communication channels, and you need to be clear on who's responsible for what communications. And that's a lot to track. It's a lot to track. But again, you have the combined power of the resources and the mental faculties. The solopreneur, you're more on your own. So you can still collaborate and you still have partners, but they're different, right? They're not going to be there cheering you on the whole way. You're not going to lean on them. So the solopreneur route, I think a lot of people are doing now, and I'm moving more towards that. I think one of the reasons that for me, I'm moving towards more solopreneur work is I want to simplify. And I really do a lot of things, and I am competent in a lot of things. So for me, being a solopreneur allows me the ability to see things through more clearly. And I don't have to worry about waiting for communication to get things done. So the solopreneur route has a lot more immediacy in your action. You can get things done very clearly. You're overseeing everything. One person's tracking it. Again, the downside there is that you have to seek other kinds of partnerships to help you to get different ideas. And if you go down, your business goes down. If I get sick for a week, my business goes down for a week. There's no income for a week at this point, unless you have certain kinds of passive income, which I'm working on. So it's two different approaches. I see here in China, a lot of people do partnerships, but I would also say that for the entrepreneurs that we're talking to and the audience that you're speaking to, I have learned more about the Chinese culture in the last year of entrepreneurship than I learned in all 8 years before that combined. Because until you understand the way people are doing business and until you're submerged in that atmosphere all the time, you really don't understand all the differences. But there are so many differences, even culturally, with the ways we communicate, with our intentions, with the way that we go about things. And I definitely grossly underestimated that when I started this. For Solwell, our target market was going to be 25 to mainly 45-year-old women, mainly women, who were soul-centered, who, had this kind of spiritual side, and also were professionals, and that they were global-minded Chinese. Because we knew that even before the mass exodus of expats, that was going to happen. So we wanted to make sure that we were offering services to people who had either studied in the U.S.A. and come back, or had international schooling, people, or even Chinese people who just haven't been outside of the country, but really wanted to experience things in different ways. And the model of wellness that we're doing is more global, so it made sense. The way that we targeted to them, whether it was effective or not, is we did mostly WeChat, because we figured that was an easy way to get through to them. We were getting set up to do some things with Red, but we never got to that point. But we started with WeChat. We did a lot with our channel. We did a lot with our WeChat official account. And I became kind of omnipresent in WeChat. I'm in over 100 groups. And so at one point I was probably reaching about over 30,000 people within an hour through my WeChat promotions. So even to this day, I have people who are asking me to promote their things, but I don't really do that unless it's something that we're collaborating on. So that was the main way that we got through to them. We also asked a lot of questions and surveys. We also talked to them before and after sessions to say, what is it that you want? What are you looking for? But the problem we've had is in this market, a lot of people say things that they say they want, but then when it comes down to actually doing it and following it through, that's different. So I would also suggest any entrepreneur, change the way that you ask your question. Don't just ask them what they want. Ask them what they need. And ask them, what would you be willing to spend X amount of RMB to do, to solve? Something like that, because that changes it. I love new experiences and I love sharing those with people. And Shanghai has more than enough to offer that you never get bored, even after 9 years of being here.